I'm here today. This is not a spiritual talk. This is just a fun talk that I wanted to give for a long time. It actually was came into my mind before we even declared the book for our Friday night discussion as the Omnivore's Dilemma, which I read and participated in the discussion. Found extremely interesting. But food has been a very big part of my life for my entire life, as it is for most of you, but I thought I would trace my travels through the world of organic and industrial food and how those two worlds intertwine with one another. To give you my bona fides, just so you know, in a past life I was a certified chef at a 4-star restaurant, so I do know a bit of what I'm talking about. Just so you know, I'm just letting you out there. I'm not bragging. I'm just letting you know that has been that food has been that important part of my life. For something fun to do, I think I would start off with a little bit of trivia. I'm going to ask you a question. You can raise your hand if you know the answer. If there's a little tittering going on in the audience, I'll understand because the word I'm about to pronounce, I'm going to have to do it with great care. Who in this audience knows what an aioli is? A-I-L-O-L-I. Aioli? Yes, we got one back there.
It's full of garlic.
What is full of garlic? That's the question.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I was going to say sauce.
It is mayonnaise that is flavored. And traditionally, it was flavored with, you're exactly right, garlic. But in modern terms, with modern chefs, it generally means any flavored mayonnaise. You can put Dijon mustard, hot sauce, spices, whatever you want to put into it. It's like compound butter. You all know what compound butter is. Simply butter that's been mixed with something else and made into a compound butter. Same concept. I've eaten a lot of things in my life. I am a foodie, so I am experimental. I've eaten beef tongue, oxtail, and beef liver. Never had sweetbreads. Sweetbreads is the thymus gland of the beef, and I have never had the opportunity to eat sweetbreads, but I would eat. I don't know that I wouldn't eat them if given the opportunity. I've also eaten chicken liver, chicken heart, chicken gizzards, and the only things I will not eat, and this is written in stone, I will not eat brains. I'm sorry, everybody. I've been told how wonderful they are. Sorry, not going to happen. Okay. I will not eat blood. We were watching an episode of on TV the other night of Anthony Bourdain. I don't know if you know who he is, but he does travel logs where he concentrates on food and culture. And they presented him in, I think it was Cambodia, with a bowl of blood soup. No thank you very much. Not interested. And I don't eat intestines. I'm sorry. I've been told they're wonderful, they're great, they're chitlins, wonderful, wonderful. I don't want any part of them. So I do have my restrictions. It's interesting because there are others I see on the Food Network. The one with the crazy yellow hair. Who in the Food Network? Guy Fieri. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Can't stand eggs. So we all have our little idiosyncrasies. I was raised on a 10-acre truck farm, and in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which if you don't know where it is, envision the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, go to the very tip of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and that's where Sault Ste. Marie is. Very cold, 1 mile from the Canadian border. The truck farm was 10 acres. It was run by my dad, my hero, the man who has been the guiding force in my life. And we ate organic. At that time, we didn't know it was a thing to eat organic, but we ate organic at that time because we lived on a farm. And so everything was organic. We didn't use pesticides because in Sault Ste. Michigan there are no pests. They don't survive very well up there. And we used natural, fertilizer from our cow. And we had chickens, we had pig, my dad every spring would buy a beefer. Small, 6 months old, say for instance, beef cow, and he would turn it loose, chain it, and then move it around, and let it, eat the grass and everything else, and he would grow. It would grow during the summer, and in the winter time, which is 9 months of the year up there. Not really, but close enough. But late fall, early winter, he would slaughter it, and he would cut it up into its selective portions, wrap it, and put it in he had an oil drum that he had cut in half, and had hinges at the back, and a lock at the front, just a latch lock. And he would put it in the packaging in there. Now, you have to understand, after about the middle of November, 1st of December at the earliest, it never gets above 30 degrees. And frequently at night it gets down to 20 below. So once it's in there and it's frozen, nothing's going to happen to it. And the animals can't get to it because it's locked. So on the farm we had, of course, our garden, our chicken coop, our pig, our cow every year, once a year, a large dog. We always kept a large dog. My dad preferred collies because, I don't know, he just liked collies. But the reason we had the large dog was to keep the rabbits out of the garden and to keep the foxes and the weasels out of the chicken coop. And we also had Belgian horses. Are you familiar with Belgian working horses? They're huge. Think Clydesdales. Okay, these are massive horses. They are not riding horses. Although we rode them as kids, we did. We really rode them. My dad would put us up on their bareback, and so we did ride them. But they're not riding horses. He used them to plow the garden. And up there, of course, having such a short growing season, you're basically growing root crops. Potatoes, carrots, rutabagas, turnips, parsnips, that kind of variety of thing. And so we would grow those. So I ate a lot of root crops when I was growing up. Now, my mother was not a very good cook. In fact, I'm being kind. That was not her forte, as it were. The ironic thing is that after my sister and I got old enough in high school that we could basically fend for ourselves at home, she went to work in the food service industry for 20 years. And at the end of her life, she was no better cook than she was at the beginning of her life. So she learned nothing in all those years in food service. We would go up to visit, and we would find every excuse possible to go out to dinner every night because we didn't want to eat her cooking. She never met a spice she liked, except maybe salt and pepper, and that was it. So when you look up bland in the dictionary, that picture next to it says Miss Elsie Peller. So, and her technique was not all that great either, to tell you the truth. One of the jokes in my family is, for breakfast lots of times we'd have cereal, and that's what happened. But on Saturdays or Sundays, we got bacon and eggs or something like that. Mostly bacon and eggs. once in a while pancakes. But what my mother would do would get out the big old cast iron skillet, yeah, big old cast iron, gas stove, you know, and she'd cook up the pound of bacon, you know, or whatever, and then she would take the eggs and she would cook them in the bacon grease. Now, there's nothing wrong with cooking eggs in bacon grease. However, it is nice if you pour some of the bacon grease out before you put the eggs in the bacon grease. Otherwise, what you've basically done is poached the eggs in bacon grease. That is what I mean by technique was not on her forte. And then she would take the bacon grease and pour it into a bacon grease saver. How many of you remember bacon grease savers? Oh, quite a few, yeah. The tin with the two tops, and one had little tiny holes. The other, pour the bacon grease in. It would keep the. And she cooked everything with bacon grease. Now, this is before we all realized that we were killing ourselves. But the amazing thing is, my father lived to be 86, and when he grew, I mean, he ate this his whole life. And when he was younger, he used to eat things like large sandwiches. So I'm not so sure about this whole ate with food. So we ate okay. I mean, we ate, you know, healthy. My father, now some of us, you know, had a little problem. We didn't eat expensive pieces of meat, except when my dad was slaughtered. You know, we'd have, but in the summertime when that meat ran out and we had to buy meat from the grocery store, of course then you went down to the butcher, and you know he would cut up whatever, you know, he would give you whatever. But we always ate this. We always got the you know, the round steak. That was about the most expensive piece of meat we bought. And my father loved liver and onions. To this day, I still like liver and onions. I guess it's an acquired thing, except ask my sister sometime. She hated liver and onions. She used about a half a thing of mustard every time she had liver and onions, because basically she would just soak the thing in mustard, so that way all she had to taste was the mustard. And so that was some of the things some of the humorous things that we talk about, even to this day. About and steak was my father, bless his heart, until the day he died, he would go into a restaurant. As they got older, they got, you know, the kids moved out, so they had more money, and you know, because we didn't go to restaurants. I mean, you know, that was a huge treat for us to go to a restaurant, and the one we went to was always A&W, which we loved as kids, because they had the child's frosted mug that you could get the root beer in. You know, all we had at home was milk and water. We didn't have Cokes at home. So this was a huge treat, and to get a hamburger and a French fries and a mug of root beer, I mean, we were seventh heaven. But this was an extremely rare treat, so we ate mostly at home. And but my father, blessed his heart, to the day he died, and he lived to be 86. I never could understand it. I don't know what happened in his youth. But he would go to a restaurant and order a T-bone steak, well done. And I would cringe. Because when you cook a T-bone steak well done, basically you've just destroyed the steak. But he insisted on this his entire life, and at home, when we had round steak, it was well done. When we had anything that was big, it was well done, and then well done again. But we also ate seasonally, which some of you will remember. You know, nowadays you can go into Kroger and hell, you can go this afternoon, middle of January, pick up some blueberries. No problem. That wasn't the way it was back then. You ate seasonally. In the spring, the first thing that came up was rhubarb. Wild. We didn't plant it. You didn't need to. It grew wild. We lived behind our house, behind our 10 acres was woods. big, huge woods. And it would just grow wild. So you would just go out and get it and bring it home. And now rhubarb is only good for one thing that I know of, and that's rhubarb pie. And I have said before here that rhubarb is essentially the proof that if you put enough sugar in something, it will become pie. And I love rhubarb pie, I really do. I mean, I still to this day, I love rhubarb pie, but you mean, come on. I mean, it's not, you know. And then the asparagus would come up. Once again, wild in the woods. So you would eat asparagus for a while. And then came July. Wonderful July. My favorite month of the year. Well, for one thing, there wasn't any snow for about 1 month of the year. But that's when the blueberries came in. And up there is blueberry country. Anybody up in Michigan that buys blueberries is going to be out of their minds, because they go wild everywhere. And there's a place about an hour from our house called Raco, and it's just a huge boggy area. And blueberries, love box, love them. Well, I love picking blueberries. My dad loved picking blueberries. My older sister loved picking blueberries, but by the time I started picking blueberries, she was already married and gone. Because we had 6 siblings, and they spread out over 16 years, so long time. So I love picking blueberries, because I love picking blueberries, and I love time with my dad, who I adored. And so one year, we got news. The weather had been absolutely ideal for blueberries. And we got the word, Raco is nuts. It was blueberries. So my dad and I, an old black Chevy, throw the boxes in the trunk, and the 2 cans, cans. My dad would take, how do I remember 8 o'clock coffee? Anybody here remember 8 o'clock coffee? Yeah, we got some 8 o'clock coffee drinkers back there. He would take 8 o'clock coffee cans, he would cut a hole on each side and string a wire through it, and then you could put it on your belt. Okay? And we got in the car and we drove out there. This is called, in our family, the Great Blueberry Caper. We drove out to Raco, and expecting to get out there in normal blueberry season. You know, we had heard they were good, but, you know, nothing outstanding. I mean, you know, we hadn't heard how spectacular they actually were. I mean, well, we had, but we really didn't believe it. And we got out there. Now, normally when you go to a blueberry field, it's still green. I mean, there's blueberries, but the field is still greenish. And we got out there and we parked the car. There were tons of cars out there. And we got out of the car, and my dad and I are exhausted. The field, literally, and I'm not kidding or exaggerating, was blue. That's how many blueberries there were that year. So my dad and I were like, oh my God, what have we just got ourselves into? So we start picking and we fill the can, and then you take the can and you put it in the box, and then you fill the box, you put it in the trunk, and you keep doing that, and you keep doing that, and you keep doing that. Gleefully going along, not thinking about the consequences of what you're doing. And about 3 o'clock, we eat supper at 5 o'clock every day. Well, a little after 3, my dad said, well, it's probably time to head back, because it takes an hour to get back to the Sault. So we go driving back to Sault, my dad and I, that was fun, that was great, that was wonderful. We come driving down the driveway, park the car. My dad gets out of the car, he's got this big old, excuse the expression, you know, eating grin on his face. And my mother comes out of the house to see what the take is going to be this year. Because everybody in our family loved blueberries. So it was a big deal. And my dad opened the trunk. And to this day, I am so thankful that we did not own a firearm. My dad would not have survived that day. Are you ready? We picked 48 quarts of blueberries. That's 12 gallons of blueberries in one day. Now the deal at our house is simple. You either pick the blueberries, or you clean and process the blueberries, or you don't eat the blueberries. We had picked the blueberries. We were done. And we'd had a great time doing it. The rest of the family was ready to kill us because they had 48 quarts of blueberries that had to be processed. They had to be cleaned. Then you had blueberries that you could have with your cereal, blueberries and milk, make blueberry pie, blueberry cobbler, and then a whole lot of blueberry jam. Blueberry jam coming out your ear. I mean, well, we like blueberry jam, so that was okay, but the whole house smells of blueberries for a week. And that's why it's called the Great Blueberry Caper. Because to this day, you mention that to any member of my family, and they know exactly what you're talking about. And then in the fall came apple season. And my dad, honest to God, knew every wild apple tree in a 10-mile radius of the house. Now, these are wild apples. These are not, golden delicious. These are tart apples. Okay? That's why to this day I like a tart apple. And so we would go out with the baskets, and we would go to the trees that my dad knew, collect the apples, bring them home, and then you have apple pie and applesauce that you make, and then applesauce that you can. So you have applesauce for the whole winter. And so you ate seasonally. You didn't go to the grocery store and buy a bag of oranges. We got one orange a year. One. In our stocking at Christmas. That was our orange for the year. And that was a big deal. And it was always at the bottom of the stocking because you see it as ball at the bottom of the stocking, so you knew you were getting an orange. And so that was my youth, basically. That was my youth. And it was a great youth. Living on a farm, I would recommend it to anybody. My father was a wonderful man, and he believed in treating all animals with respect and care, and he did. He never abused a single one of his animals, ever. And he raised them, and they would come up to him, they would walk up to him, but when it was time, he would kill them because that's what they were for. They were meat. And the only time I ever got in on that with him was when every Sunday we'd have chicken. That was it. Every Sunday, chicken. And now these are laying hens, so you're not going to fry them. Unless you want to, gnaw on them for an hour. Because they're very, so every Sunday we would go out and cut the head off a chicken and bring it in, and my mom would cook it, in some fashion. Chicken soup, chicken and dumplings, various things like that, where you cook it really low and slow, for a long, long time, and break down the tissue. And I love chicken and dumplings to this day. So that was our food. That's how we ate. And then I turned 15. And I got my first job in a restaurant as a dishwasher. And I walked in the first day I worked day shift. I worked in the morning, on the weekends, because I was in school. The first day I walked in, Ma was at the flat top. Ma was our morning cook. She was fantastic. And I watched her do something I just blew my mind. She took an egg ring. Anybody know what an egg ring is? Hey, that egg ring, round piece of steel with the steel handle sticking out of it. Slap it on the flat top, take a dip a brush in clarified butter, put it in the bottom of the thing. I put the eggs inside and I went, eggs and butter? Are you kidding me? You can cook eggs and butter? Much to my amazement, not could you cook eggs and butter, but there was a whole lot of things you could cook in butter. You can cook steak in butter. I didn't know that. You can cook steak rare, medium rare, medium well, and occasionally we would get somebody like my dad in who would order a perfectly good T-bone and porterhouse cooked well done, and it just drove the cooks nuts. So I got to eat my first steak that was medium rare, and I'm like, oh, when you eat it like this, it actually has flavor. That's new. Well, as I moved through the culinary world, I worked everywhere, from fast food to a 4-star restaurant. And I worked my way up from dishwasher to chef. And there wasn't a place that I didn't learn something. Even fast food, I learned how you can make mediocre food really quickly. And that's okay if you're in a hurry and you want something to eat, but it's not exactly my cup of tea. And I was manager of a sub shop. Now this is not a Subway or one of the big chains. This was just, these brothers owned this sub shop, and that's when I realized you could use authentic ingredients, and we made some of the finest subs you'll ever want to eat, because we didn't use pepperoni. Italian sub, it's capicola, mortadella, Genoa salami, and provolone cheese. And the only place I have found since then, and I have hunted all over, that has come anywhere close to those subs, is a place called Jersey Mike's. And I don't know if any of you have been to Jersey Mike's, but they are the closest I've ever come to what we used to produce. And then I worked in a health food restaurant where I learned how to cook stir fry, because we had three woks, an industrial wok. I'm talking this big, over huge gas fires, and it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to cook a dish because they are hot. And I got to the point in that restaurant where I was called a 3-wok man. We had 3 woks. And when you got to be a 3-wok man, that meant you managed 3 woks at the same time. Now you have to imagine now, it's taking 2 to 3 minutes to cook any of these dishes. And you're working 3 woks at the same time. So it takes a bit of skill. I still make a heck of a stir fry. And because I learned there. And I learned other things there as well. But where I really started getting my education was when I got hired at the 4-star restaurant. And I was the only chef there. They actually gave me a chef's jacket. After I was on 3 months probation. And at the end of the 3 months probation, they presented me with a chef jacket with my name on it, and, you know, the button up and the chef's hat on. Cool stuff. They're all of them, except myself. Every one of them was a graduate of the ACI. Do y'all know what the ACI is? American Culinary Institute. It's our version of Le Cordon Bleu in France. And all of them, except me, was a graduate of ACI. So I was in good company, and I learned a lot. Now when I say 4-star restaurant, y'all are thinking, well, what make it a 4-star restaurant? We made everything, and I mean everything, from scratch. We made nothing with canned. We didn't have a pantry. We didn't need a pantry. Because everything was fresh. Let me give you a couple of, well, we made our own mayonnaise. I mean, you can get mayonnaise. I mean, you know, it's not hard. You can buy it. You can bring it, you know. We didn't do that. And I don't know if you know what how to make mayonnaise, but it's just egg yolks and oil. That's all it is. And you get the eggs yolks, and you have to drizzle the oil in very, 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 very slowly, and then it it forms what's called a, and look down here, an emulsification. And you can break it. I did it once. And the ire of the chef came down on my head for breaking the mayonnaise. It never happened again. I drizzled it in too fast. I was in a hurry. I learned my lesson. But when I say 4-star, let me give you an example. The pastry chef decided in December he wanted to make a dish with strawberries. No problem. Even back then, you could get strawberries out of Mexico. Not a big deal. Nope. We flew them in overnight from New Zealand. Now imagine a cigar box, only much bigger. About that thick. Wooden. Latch. With the latch on. Each individual strawberry in its own individual pouch. What I'm saying is we took cooking seriously. And I learned a lot, especially techniques. You know, I didn't learn all 4 mother sauces because, frankly, there's actually 5 mother sauces. Do y'all know the 5 mother sauces come out of France, and they're considered the base for a lot of dishes. Most people, all they ever use is the bechamel sauce, which, if you don't know what that is, it's butter and flour, and you cook it down until it starts to bubble. That's called a roux. And then you add the milk slowly and whisk like heck, and then salt and pepper. When that thickens, that's a bechamel sauce. And you use it as a base on a lot of things, but mostly, what most people commonly know it for is macaroni and cheese. Because then you can add your cheese and then add it to the macaroni and put it in the oven, and macaroni and cheese. But there are 5. The most difficult one to make is hollandaise sauce. It is not. The others are all roux based. Hollandaise is an emulsification, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's egg yolks and clarified butter over heat. And if you don't do it right, there's about 20 ways of breaking it. But the only thing you're never going to make it, because the only thing it's really any good for is putting on eggs Benedict or pouring over top of the spears, the asparagus spears, and other things. But Macy, you probably never make it in your life. And if you do, be very careful, because if that water's too hot, you're going to have scrambled eggs. And if you pour the clarified butter in too quickly, you're going to do the same thing I did with mayonnaise. You're going to break it. I'm going to give you a tip here. For those of you who want to experiment or have done work with trying to work with chocolate, you know, melting chocolate over, once again, hot water, a hint: if it ever breaks and you happen to have some, don't throw it out. If you add a little heavy cream, you can bring it back. Okay, just a hint for the future for some of you that don't know. Let me turn my page here because I'm gone way beyond where I started. As you can tell, I speak mostly, just kind of refer back to my notes. My favorite cuisine, and he's not here today, I just recently got turned on to. Casey's not here today. I asked Casey one time, I said, do you know any good Indian restaurants? He said, well, I know 3 of them in Nashville. And so of course I'm up in Nashville all the time, and my son and I were up there and wanted to go to lunch, so we went to one on 21st Avenue, and it was a buffet, so I went down the buffet, went back to the seat, and started eating, and went, oh my, where have you been all my life? I love Indian cuisine. What they do with spices is unbelievable. And the thing about Indian cuisine is you say Indian cuisine and you're talking about probably 13, 15 different cuisines out of the same country, and none of them are the same. And I am in love with Indian cuisine. Most of my time at home, I cooked industrial. I mean, back 15 years ago, you went into Kroger, you'd be hard pressed to find anything organic. It was all, you know, you go to the produce aisle and it was the produce aisle. You know, carrots and whatever, and potatoes and whatnot. But recently there has been a turn. And those of you who read the Omnivore's Dilemma are aware of this. And I have a friend whose name is, oh, now I can't remember his name. I've only been friends with him for 25 years, Billy Reed. He's a backdoor receiving clerk, and has been now 25 years, the backdoor receiving clerk at Kroger. And he will tell you in a heartbeat that their fastest growing segment is organic. So now I read the Omnivore's Dilemma, and I told Doug, I said, the first third of it was the scariest thing I've read since The Exorcist. I realized then that what was happening to the groundwater, to the water, to the, you know, because of all the chemicals that they were using. So I didn't change over to organic for my health reasons, because my health is not great anyway. I don't think I'll be adding a whole lot of years by eating organic apples, but you never know. I did it for political reasons. I did it because I wanted to keep as much of that crap out of the water as possible, because it runs. Des Moines, Iowa, if you read in the book, for those of you who haven't read the book, Des Moines, Iowa has what they call Blue Water Days, in which they advise you not to drink the water because the chemical content is so high that their plants can't handle it. That's how much chemical runoff is going on. So I say to my son, we go to the grocery store, vote with your pocketbook. Now I understand there are people on fixed income that can't do that. I'm on a fixed income, but I was very wise with my money over the years and have a nice little nest egg, so I can afford to go in and buy organic ground bison for twice as much as I would buy regular ground beef. I can do that. I can buy organic tomatoes, organic apples, organic potatoes, organic carrots. You know, even last week in the Kroger ad I saw they had on sale, they had organic spaghetti sauce. Every aisle now has organic. Even cleaning supplies have the organic section now. So I have switched over to mainly, we really do try to eat organic at our house now. We make an effort to eat organic. And I do it for myself, because I want to be, I don't want to contribute to what's happening to the earth, because, and especially the waterways. I do it because I want my son to get in the habit of it. He's only 30 years old. 31 on Wednesday, by the way. And I want him to get in that, because I really think if you have a choice between feeding your child an organic apple and an industrial apple. Apple, by the way, according to a survey I read, there's someplace, a corporation that does testing every year. Apples are the #1 vegetable, fruit, whatever, #1 in containing pesticides. #1. So, just to let you know, you can look it up. Just look up pesticides in fruits and vegetables, and it'll take you right to the site. And they have what they call the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, and you can read that. and get an idea of what you're eating. So that's where I am today. But it has been a long journey, and this is a talk I thought would just be kind of fun, and I thought the talk back would be kind of fun because y'all can talk about your own experiences, and I'm glad you let me talk to you today.